Okay, hi everybody. It's me again, Mr. Wall, back with some more information about music history. I hope you are all very, very well. I miss you a lot. Today is April 20 Bahubith. Nobody even knows. But anyway, last time we were talking, we talked a little bit about Baroque music, and today we're going to extend that a little bit more and talk a little bit about the classical music period. Now, had we been together, we would have been watching a little bit of a movie that I really love called Amadeus. Um, we're not together, so we won't be watching that film together, but you'll see in the forms, at the bottom of the form, a little link to a scene from that film. And I hope you'll watch that at the end because it really gives us an idea of the very greatest composer of the classical music period, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who we'll get to in just a minute. In the meantime, here is the PowerPoint. So I'm going to walk you through that and we'll talk just a little bit about Mozart and the classical music period. And here we go. So as you can see, the classical music period runs from 750 to 1825. As you can see, these periods are getting shorter and shorter. And also I wanted to notice that I put in that extra date, 1776. I know you guys are all great social studies students, so you recognize that date as the date of the American independence. When the United States said to Great Britain, we don't care about you, we want to be our own country. And so if you ever think of what life looked like in the colonial times, that gives you a good idea of what we're talking about when we talk about the classical music period. Although, keep in mind, we're really talking mostly about Europe when we talk about the music. There were musicians in the United States, not too many famous ones at this point. That comes later. What does it mean to be classical? Anytime you hear the term classical, whether it be about music or art or architecture, we're always talking about looking back to the ancient Greeks, the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. And what we're really referring to is structure and order and balance and symmetry. And I'm assuming that most sixth graders know that term symmetry and you know what that means. But if you're not sure, symmetry just simply means that something is exactly the same on both sides. And this is a cultural idea, an aesthetic, um, just a way of living that people in the classical music period really were down with. They loved this idea that things had to be symmetrical. And they would point to the human body. They'd say, well, the human body is symmetrical, right? We have an eye on our right and an eye on our left. And the more symmetrical you are, the more beautiful you are. The more symmetrical you're decorating, the more beautiful your house would be. So there's a lot of rules regarding the way you create art, and that's going to apply to our music and to our composer, certainly, as well. One great example that I really especially appreciate of architecture, the way we could build something in a classical style. If you're ever in Virginia or you're driving, you're on your way, as I am every summer, to the Outer Banks, we sometimes stop by in Charlottesville, Virginia. And in Charlottesville, or just outside, is Thomas Jefferson's most grand, beautiful home, Monticello. It's a great example of architectural style in the classical style. It is exactly the same, this house, on both sides. You can even see from the picture that I've given you here, if we were to put a line down the middle, this house is exactly the same on both sides, same number of rooms. It's decorated in that way as well on the inside. And Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers and a brilliant, brilliant man. And um, he was really in on that classical architecture. Another concept, classical art, the way we might paint. And you could look at this painting and say, well, that looks like it might be a Roman painting. No, in fact, that is from the year 1772, maybe. The artist's name is David, and the painting is called The Oath of the Horatii, which is not that important, but what's important is the way this painting has been put together and the concept behind it. You can see that there are three beautiful arches back here. We have three soldiers. The gentleman in the middle is holding three swords, and we have three ladies. So there's a lot of symmetry going on. The characters are even placed almost on what looks like a grid. So we have this 3-3-3 thing is tying everything together. Characters on a grid. Even the color scheme, we have red in the middle, a little red on the left, a little red on the right. Um, all very symmetrical, all very classical. So let's talk about a little bit about the music. And first I wanted to mention to you this gentleman, Franz Joseph Haydn. He was born in 1732 and lived 1809. And Franz Joseph Haydn had the luxury of working for just one family his whole life. He wrote music for a family named the Esterhazy family. And he wrote beautiful classical music, including this particular one we're going to listen to called the Surprise Symphony. It's a symphony number 94. People know it as the Surprise, and well, I'll let you listen and you can figure out why. Whoa, whoa, yeah, wow. I'm awake now. Thanks a lot, Haydn. Good job. Yeah, the story goes like this. The Franz Joseph Haydn was a little bit sick of the Esterhazy family falling asleep at every concert. You know, everybody had a couple of glasses of wine, maybe a nice dinner, and they would sit down to the concert and then everybody would fall asleep. That really bugged him. So he wrote that little surprise symphony. Hope you could hear that audio okay, guys. Now, finally, our good man, Mozart. Mozart, without a doubt, is the most important composer of the classical music period. As you can see, he lived from 1756 to 1791. You math students, yeah, 35 when he died. Yeah, that's not old. That's a very short lifespan, even by those days' standards. Now, you might be saying, why did he die so young? Ah, that's part of the movie that we would have watched together, Amadeus. How did Mozart die so young and what happened? We can get into that just a little bit. First, though, let's talk about when he was very, very young. Mozart was the son of a very famous composer named Leopold Mozart, and he is literally considered a child prodigy. The word prodigy becomes almost synonymous with Mozart and his music. He was so good at such a young age. In fact, there are stories about him at age 3 never having practiced or ever having been given a lesson, walking up to the harpsichord and playing a piece of music perfectly, to which his father automatically was like, oh, wow, this kid's got skills. So he had to start teaching him right away. And little young Wolfie and his older sister were taken on tours all over Europe, and they were quite famous. They made a lot of money. Um, can kind of liken it to any child stars we have in the 21st century. And one of the best examples I guess I can think of would be maybe somebody like Justin Bieber or maybe Hannah Montana, aka Miley Cyrus. Very, very talented at a super young age. And then as they get older, maybe they try to shed that popularity and not be so kid-like. And that also happened to Mozart. So as he got older, um, found that life of childhood stardom kind of took its toll on the kids. So as he got older, his popularity kind of went away. However, he was still writing and composing amazing music. He just wasn't as popular as kind of almost like a circus act. He did develop some very, very bad habits in his finances and also in substances, for example, drinking alcohol. But Mozart wrote over 600 amazing pieces of music. He wrote symphonies, string quartets. He's extremely famous for his operas. The movie Amadeus, had we watched it together, you would see that it's all told from the point of view of a frenemy composer of Mozart's. Frenemy, you know what I mean? They were friends, but they were also kind of enemies and kind of competing. That composer's name was Salieri, and Salieri does a great job of explaining how much he loved Mozart, but how his personality was one that was a little bit troubling. You will see in that little clip at the end, and again, I hope you guys will watch that clip. There were two pieces we were going to listen to. We're going to scratch the first one, which is from the Marriage of Figaro and from an opera, which is really too bad. Great piece of music, but I'd like to tell you a little story about the next piece of music, Eine Kleine Nachtmusik. This piece of music was a piece of music that Mozart wrote under extreme pressure. The story is that somebody knocked on Mozart's door and Mozart opened the door and this rich dude is standing there. And this rich dude says to Mozart, hey, Mozart, here you're good with the music thing, having a party, and I'd like you to write some music for my party. Seems like the boombox is broken. And so Mozart says, well, sure, I'll write music for your party. When is it? And the guy says, well, it's actually in 4 hours. Now, those of us who like to procrastinate and do our best work under pressure, Mozart sat right down and ripped out this piece of music very, very quickly, wrote it down straight out of his head, down onto a piece of paper, perfection. Don't forget, he also had to write out all the parts for the violins, the violas, and everybody else. Anyway, this piece of music known as Eine Kleine Nachtmusik has become one of the most famous pieces of music of all time. Eine is German for one. Kleine is little, sometimes baby, but Kleine, little. And Nachtmusik, night music. So a little night music. And here, guys, is the first movement, which I'm sure you'll recognize, and I'm going to call up on my iPad. Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Boy, I'll tell you, I think that piece of music is really soothing, but also energetic and fun to listen to. If you're ever having trouble with an assignment or something, put that on. I don't know why, it just ignites things in the brain. Okay, let's pause. All right, so that's been it about classical music, guys. There's a couple questions here for you to answer in the form. So if you'll take the time to go on down and just real quick answers to what I think are probably some of the most important points about the classical music period. Also, don't forget to watch that little clip from the movie Amadeus. It's a great movie. I will warn you, it is rated PG. Actually, had we watched it in class, I would have edited it quite a bit so that some of the racier bits aren't in there. But it is a really fun movie and a really great glimpse into one of the great composers, certainly the best composer of the classical music period, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for doing the assignments. Those of you who are tuning in and responding to these, you are awesome. Thank you. Keep going. Hope you're all well, and I hope to be able to see you soon. Maybe schools will reopen here before the end of the year. All right, guys, have a great week. Thank you.